So I've just become an ambassador for the Voice of Epilepsy, and I've put on my Instagram a couple of days ago about some questions that people want to know, people with epilepsy and people without epilepsy, just general questions that a lot of people struggle with when they're exercising, diet, health-wise and stuff like that. So I've got a couple of questions that I'm going to answer, and when I've answered them all, if I've answered anything that doesn't make sense or you want to know more, then please feel free to message me, DM me, anything. I'm happy to help. That's what I'm here for. I just want to try and get the voice of epilepsy out and try and explain it a little bit more to people. So does exercise help with epilepsy? Because it's 2 E's. And does it change the seizure frequency? So when I got diagnosed with epilepsy, I got told not to train hard, not to get my heart rate up high, and basically just do steady state cardio, and that was it. They didn't really give you much information of what you can and can't do, and there's not a lot of places either that you can find that tell you what you can and can't do. There's a lot of conflicting advice. Now I'm just going off my personal experience. I've trained since I was 16, I'm now 27, so I've had a long time to be able to manipulate different things and change different things in order to be able to get what works right. So first, before you even start thinking about exercising, you need to know what your triggers are for epilepsy. So mine is tiredness, overheating and stress. So I need to make sure that those 3 things are in check before I start even thinking about exercising, just because yes, your heart rate does go up if you are exercising, it obviously will. So you need to make sure that you're in a good healthy balance before you do that. From my experience, I've found that weight training and steady state cardio has been really beneficial for me. I found that connecting that with a good diet and training regime, so making sure that if I'm tired I go for a sleep before I exercise, if I need to change out my days and have an extra rest day because I'm too tired, then I will make sure that that happens. Obviously we've had a lot of hot weather, so I've had to try and train like earlier on a morning or later on a night, just so that I'm not training in like the heat. So it changed my seizures. I've only ever had one in the gym, and that was only because I had the COVID vaccine and it messed up my medications. Other than that, touch wood, I've been absolutely fine when exercising, and personally feel like it's helped me loads more, making sure that I do exercise. So you can lift heavy with weights, you can do cardio, you just got to be mindful and smart of how you do it. Anything that I should avoid with having epilepsy. So diet and training. Diet wise, I would avoid anything with like high sugars, a lot of caffeine, so pre-workouts. There's some pre-workouts that I can use, but some pre-workouts make me anxious and sometimes can bring on a seizure. So I just stay away from high sugary foods. Stuff like takeaways and processed foods, stay away from. It's got too much additives in it and it'll mess about with your medications. Obviously epilepsy is the electrical pulses in your brain, and the slight trigger of them, that's what causes a seizure. So if you're eating high foods that's causing your insulin levels, so your blood sugar levels to go up and back down, it's not going to be very beneficial for you. Training wise, I've found that if I'm unwell, so if I've got cold, flu, or just generally not 100%, that if I train when I'm like that, then it makes me worse, obviously makes me more tired, which then makes me more prone to seizures. So just, as I say, be mindful with what you are actually doing to make sure that you're not going to trigger your seizure off. So the next one, can I drink pre-workout coffee? So there's some pre-workouts that I can have. I am obviously a sponsored athlete trained by JP, and the only one that I can use is either their pump or their dialing. So It has got caffeine in as the dialing pre-workout, but it hasn't got the beta-alanine in it. It gives you the tingly feeling, which brings on like my heart flutters, which makes me feel like I'm going to have a seizure and just stresses me out. So I just try and stick away from that. I've had a lot of people asking me what types of pre-workout to have, and the only thing that I would do is try and look at the back of the protein, try and look at the back of a pre-workout and just look at how much caffeine is actually in that pre-workout. If it's over like 300-400 milligram, then I would stay away from that, and I would just try and have like a pump or something like that so you're not having too much of a coffee influx. Also with coffee, I have 1 black coffee a day, and that's the only black coffee that I will have, just personally because it's the same thing. Raises up your heart rate, can cause you to have seizures. So personally I would stay away from high caffeinated drinks like coffee and pre-workout. So vitamins, so what vitamins are good? You want anything rich in B vitamins, so you've got not the food, so you've got like milk, cheese, eggs, liver, turkey, stuff like that. I would really avoid cheese, because I've got told when I got diagnosed that the cheese has a chemical in it that changes your brain waves slightly, which can cause people to have more seizures. So I take vitamin B supplements just so that I don't have to have the dairy or the cheese, that sort of thing. So I'm having it in a tablet, and I'm making sure that my body can process that a lot. Also, I would definitely recommend omega-3. Obviously it's good for everything, but it does help with concentration and brain. And we know if you've got epilepsy yourself, you know how much of a scatterbrain you sometimes can be, and how much of the brain fog you can get. So you need to make sure that you're taking your omega-3, because I have personally found a lot of benefits through doing that. You've obviously got your other vitamins like your vitamin D, because we don't get enough sunlight and stuff like that, but I would definitely say a vitamin B complex and an omega-3 would be my top 2 things that I would suggest for people with epilepsy. Have I had a seizure while working out, and what are the setbacks? So yes, I've had a seizure when at the gym. That was a couple of months ago. This was because obviously I was unwell at the time. I didn't realise I'd had the COVID vaccine, and it had messed up my medications, messed up my cycle, and I got too overheated, too hot, and had a seizure in the gym. Luckily it wasn't a really bad one, and I was able to recover, and it just meant that I had to take just a couple of extra rest days to make sure that my body was back to normal. Obviously when you do have an epileptic fit, your body is going through a lot, so you need to make sure that you're not jumping into exercise or working yourself too hard after a seizure. You need to actually be mindful again and make sure that you're taking the time to rest if you need to rest, and just actually listening to your body and making sure that you're doing everything you can to not cause a seizure. I think that is about it. The last question, what will I be able to message me if I can't find the questions that I'm asking for? So like I said in the beginning, if there's any questions that I haven't answered, any questions that you want me to go more into detail about, like diet or training, then please feel free to DM me. I am happy to help as much as possible. I want to get the voice out of there for people with epilepsy, and I want to make it a little bit more well known. Hope that has helped some people, and thank you for listening, guys.